Excuse me, pardon me. Hey, man, watch them people's shoes. Hey, man, don't drop that popcorn on them. All right, here go 2-6 right here. Cool. Hey, man, yo, this gonna be a good one, man. Hey, you at the movies with Pete McCorvey. Hey, oh, shh, about to start. Hold on, be quiet. What's going on, family? This your country cousin Pete McCorvey, aka Peter Mac, and welcome back to the theater once again, man. We back with a new review. The last review I did, I got good reviews on it, pun intended, and I'm just gonna keep this thing rolling, man. Now this movie I got today, I had to pick it because we're in a very special part of the year, a part of the year that's nearest and dearest to my heart. We are in the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament, or as is more commonly referred to, March Madness. I have been watching March Madness damn near religiously since 1998. That was the first time I remember watching it. I remember Kentucky taking it all, but I remember Utah almost winning it all. I remember Michael Doliak. I knew he was a bad boy because I remember all the brothers in the barbershop talking about this badass white boy from Utah, man. And which was crazy because before Michael Doliak was doing his thing, Utah had another white dude named Keith Van Horn, and he was balling his ass off too. But I decided, the movie I'm going to choose. Before I get into that, I want to say good season to my Duke Blue Devils. They got eliminated in the Elite Eight on a buzzer beater against UConn, 73-72. Being a Duke Blue Devils fan, this has almost become old hat at this point. Because, they did the same thing they did last year when they got eliminated in the Final Four against Houston. Double-digit lead going in at the half. Then just started playing like they've never played a game of basketball ever in their life. That's just what Duke does. Run the tables all year. Be number one in the nation all throughout the year. Going into the ACC tournament, just bulldogging everybody, Then they'll get to Big Dance. They get to the round of 64, do their thing. Round of 32, do their thing. Then around about Sweet 16, Elite 8, that's when it starts to, they're like, we play basketball. A lot of us are the number one recruited guys from the state we come from. We've never done this before. And then they'll keep giving the ball to a person who cold like he's missed 5 field goals in a row. I'm going to keep feeding him the ball. He'll get into a rhythm sooner or later, and they never do. And it's because of that, we're going on 11 years that they have not brought the D1 men's basketball trophy back to Durham and to Cameron Indoor Stadium. But nonetheless, hey, shout out to UConn, especially Braylon Mullins for hitting that shot. Hey, he looked like another Mullins. He like Chris Mullins, the way he was hitting that shot. But you know what? I'm not going to dwell on that too much. That's why March Madness is what it is. Anybody can come from anywhere and win it all. And that's the beauty of it. But I'm going to go ahead and get on into the movie I'm going to talk about today. So here we go. Let's go. The movie I'm going to talk about and review, since it's March Madness, I'm going to review the 1997 supernatural comedy sports drama, The Sixth Man, which was released by Touchstone Pictures. Now, The Sixth Man was released March 28th of 1997, and it stars Marlan Wayans and Kadeem Hardison as brothers Kenny and Antoine Tyler, respectively. Also has Michael Michelle as R.C. St. John. She's a reporter for the Huskies local beat, and also the love interest of Marlon Wayne's character Kenny. And David Paymer plays Coach Peterson, and also have Kevin Dunn as Mikulski, the senior reporter and RC's boss. Now, when I first saw this movie, saw it upon its initial release, at the Cinema 4 Theater. Remember I told you about Cinema 5 inside of Singer River Mall in Goshen, Mississippi? So they had an auxiliary theater outside across the parking lot. That was Cinema 4. Now, you know, you really had to want to go see a movie then, because like most of the time we wanted to go to Cinema 5 because it was attached to the mall, but a movie had to really be busting, and we really wanted to go see it if we go to Cinema 4. You know what I'm saying? So I saw that my mom took me and my sister to see this, and I'll never forget, it was very cold that night, which was kind of weird for it being March, but I was really happy because as cold as it was, I couldn't wait to get home, get in front of the space heater and warm up, because, you know, space heater get that little humming noise, and that puts me to sleep. So I was really looking forward to getting home. You know, that was like a ghetto fireplace back in the day. And also, this is the first time I remember sneaking food into the theater. Don't act like y'all ain't never did it. My mama took us to Chick-fil-A, told us to put it in our coat, and I remember being mad because I couldn't have any fries. She was like, that's too much. And I remember the movie coming on, instead of eating popcorn and all that, I'm eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich. So that was what my first interaction with this movie. Okay, now I'm going to get into my little synopsis of this movie. Tells, like I said, the story of brothers Kenny and Antoine Toddler, who play collegiate basketball for the University of Washington, or UW Huskies, with the hope of winning the NCAA national championship. The dream, however, is shattered when Antoine passes away from a heart attack in the middle of a game. The Huskies then, after he passed away, they spiral out of control and they go on a losing streak. Kenny is taking it worst of all because he lost his big brother. He's grief-stricken. And in that state of grief, he goes to the gym, the Herc Edmondson Pavilion on the campus of the University of Washington, and he's talking with the jersey, Antoine's jersey, like, you know how people go talk to the grave, and he says that he needs him. He can't do it by himself. In the next game, the Huskies are trailing, and they win in the final moments when all kind of weird things occur. Afterwards, in the locker room, Antoine reveals his spirit to Kenny and tells him that he's back to help him and the Huskies win. But he also tells him that only he can see him. Nobody else can see him. And after that, Antoine helps the Huskies. The Huskies go on the road. They end up getting a berth in the NCAA championship. And then they just start winning, marching from the round of 64 to round of 32 to the Sweet 16 to the Elite Eight, eventually to the Final Four. Now, along the way, as they're winning and everything, Antoine, who had habit of being a ball hog while he was alive, that comes back into play, and it is costing players both on the team and opposing, it's costing them a lot of grief. And a matter of fact, tragedy ends up happening. Not only is that costing them grief and tragedy, he's also interfering with Kenny, who is getting closer to RC, who's played by Michael Michelle, as I mentioned. They forming a romantic bond, and that stopped him. But RC also has an ulterior motive. She's trying to further her journalism career and getting close to Kenny and trying to find out what is happening with the team, how are they winning, and why is all this weird stuff like shots going in from crazy angles, people who are dunking who could never dunk before. So it's a whole lot of things that are happening, and it has Kenny in a dilemma to whether he needs to tell Antoine before the championship game, you can keep helping us out along the way, or telling him, hey man, we need to do this on our own because this isn't fair, this is wrong. Now this is my review. for the movie. Number one, let me just start out by saying this. This movie showed Marlan Wayans' acting range. You know, because before this, I thought it was just going to be comical. Because you got to remember, at this time, the Wayans brothers was on. It was hitting. He was the goofy younger brother, Marlon Williams, on the Wayans brothers. So I just swore up and down. I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be comical. Like, the scene where he found out that Antoine died, and I was like, damn, he can really act. And then the other scene where, like I said, he's talking to the Jersey and the Raptors, telling him he needs him. He showed range there. And then the scene at the end where he tearfully gives Antoine a hug goodbye, tells him, I love you. I was like, yo, I did not know this dude could act like that. I mean, we saw glimpses of it 3 years earlier in Above the Rim when he played Boogaloo, but I just, hey, he showed me there. He is the most talented of all the Wayans. Not saying he the funniest. I ain't saying he the smartest. I'm saying just all around, like I can be funny, I can be dramatic. He showed that in this movie. He did a superb job. So A+++ for Marlan Wayans' acting. And they also, I'm going to say this, it did a great job of convincing us that Kadeem Hardison is actually a star college basketball player. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I was young. I'm used to seeing him on a different world with the glasses and everything. He looked like he got a little muscular for this, like he actually looked more athletic because I'm used to him being slim. It wasn't until I think the scene where he had his heart attack and they closed up on his face, I said, oh shit, that's Dwayne Wayne from a different world. Like what? I didn't know that was like, I don't know why, because you know, I didn't really know people's names. I just saw Marlan Wayans and was wondering, why is he not in this movie with his brothers like he was on Don't Be a Menace? But they did a great job convincing us that he was a college basketball player. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is probably going to be a recurring theme throughout the rest of this review, but I'm going to say it. You know that saying they got now when somebody can talk in a lot of detail about something, they seem very knowledgeable, like, oh, they like that man, no ball. I'm going to say this. The writers, producers, maybe director, I'm going to say this. They know ball, and I mean they know ball, because they got like almost everything accurate with this, and they made sure that it came across to the audience. This movie was for somebody who really enjoys college basketball at that time, because they used real basketball powerhouse schools of that time. And they even featured real coaches from first game they playing Arizona. We saw Lute Olson. They had UCLA. That's the game where Antoine ends up dying of a heart attack. Jim Hartwick. We saw footage of Jim Hartwick. Cal. They had Todd Bozeman. Fresno State. They had the Shark, Jared Tarkanian, because he was coaching at Fresno State. He had got fired from UNLV. Couple years ago. They had Nolan Richardson from Arkansas, and they had one of my personal favorite, RIP to him, they had Big John Thompson from them Georgetown Hoyas. And then finally, for the final game they played against UMass for the title, they had Bruiser Flint. I'm surprised they had him in there because John Calipari just got fired, but you know, I digress. They even had commentators on there. Brad Nessler, who commentated all the games. Like every game you'll hear him commentating before they even jump to whoever is really commentating courtside. We heard him all throughout the film. They had him on there. They had Dick Vitale, Dickie V. My boy's gonna be awesome, baby, with a capital A, and that's what he was. They had Billy Packard. They had George Raveling. They even got one ref that is known for college basketball. They got Ted Valentine, or TV Teddy, because this punk motherfucker always got to make the game about him. He think he bigger than the program. He was in there. That means these people were very detailed. They knew ball for real. And I loved that. I mean, as a kid, I didn't really peep that, but going back and watching it now, because I got into sports like later that year. So now that I'm watching, like, God damn, they got this down to every detail. Like, they spent some money, and Lord knows how many meetings they probably had to have with the NCAA to get all that clearance for all that shit. Now, while I do love this movie, it's not a perfect movie. But, hey, it is what it is. I like it, but we're going to point out something like David Payman, who played Coach Peterson, he was not convincing as a basketball coach. There was nothing about him that made me think he was a basketball coach. Like, if you seen Blue Chips, which I'm going to talk about next week, I'm just putting that out there. Nick Nolte ain't got the height of no basketball player, but I really felt I was looking at a D1 basketball coach when I saw Nick Nolte as Pete Bell. I did not get that from David Payman as Coach Peterson. Like, he said something in the huddle of the game where Antoine first starts doing something and nobody knows what's going on. He said, we're down, but we don't stink. I'm like, what? What coach would say that? Also, they didn't really do a good job with kind of explaining RC St. John, Michael Michelle. But I'm fine, so who that woman knows she look good enough. And I ain't realized until I went back and watched New Jack City, that was the same woman who played Nino's original girlfriend when he poured the champagne on, said, cancel that bitch, I'll buy another one. It was like, I didn't know, was she a student at the school? Was she a grad student there? Was this like her first official job out of school? They didn't really explain it. And the reason I say it didn't do that, because her and Marlan Wayans didn't have really no chemistry. They didn't. Like, even that kiss they had at the end after he won the championship, it was like, it didn't seem natural. It seemed like you could tell it was scripted. It gave off she was a grown woman, like messing with like a college kid. It just, they just didn't fit well. They didn't really expound on the story. Like, for instance, when Kenny bet Antoine $10 he can get any woman he picks number, and he found out Antoine picked RC, and he goes outside to find her. The car she pulled up, and I'm like, even when I was younger, because I was like, is she a college student? Because no college student I know, unless they come from money, would have no car like that. Even when she finally put the pieces together, she was looking at a scene after the Kentucky game where Luther got fouled out because Antoine took over his body. She was realizing that Luther didn't touch the ball. I'm like, that don't look like no dorm room. That looks like a nice apartment of a full-grown ass woman who got a college degree. So they kind of, I don't know they didn't really do a good job with that. Now, they say the movie received negative reviews and made like $14.8 million total, which was just enough to consider it a success above the $11 million budget that it had. Now, legendary critic Roger Ebert, he called it predictable and dumb, saying the filmmakers got an easy, obvious idea and are content with it. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Mr. Ebert, may you rest in peace. So are we as the viewer. It was Marlan Wayans playing basketball. You was going to expect some obvious sports shit and obviously some comedy. Like I said, we were surprised that he was real dramatic. Like, if you walked into this movie thinking it was going to be up there with Citizen Kane, The Godfather, Gone with the Wind, which I'm going to tell y'all straight up, I think all three of them fucking movies are overrated, even though they considered the greatest movies of our time. If you walked in the theater thinking it was going to be that, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? To me, and everybody who went to see it, this was a movie for people who wanted to laugh, people who wanted a good good story, and for people who were sports fans. You know what I'm saying? It served its purpose to me. It ain't perfect, but it still got rewatchability 29 years later. I'm still watching it 29 years later, and I'm probably going to watch it for another 29 years. This is one of my March Madness traditions. Like I told you, for Batman Returns, Christmas Eve, I'm watching that. March Madness come around, I'm watching the 6-man. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give the 6-man a very strong 7 and a soft 8. That's what I'm going to give it. Now I'm going to get to my little tidbits. Sometimes things may say like, oh, this is something I liked about it, or WTF moments. First of all, I'm going to say this. This soundtrack, low-key, was a sleeper. This soundtrack was a sleeper. They had songs by Jade. Dougie Fresh had a song. I'm going to be honest, Dougie Fresh had his rendition of Superstition, and y'all going to be like, what the hell when I tell you that? The rendition that he had of Superstition that plays while the opening credits are rolling, that was my first time hearing Superstition, even before Stevie Wonder's version. Had a group named Savoy. They had that one song where they're going through the montage after Antoine died, and they're going to lose a streak deeper than blood. They also had a song that was featured right after we showed them when they first college game, and all the fellas, they feeling themselves, and they at the bar kicking it. It's called Soul. That's good. And they had this one joint by this group called Public Demand. It's called Invisible. You know, if you seen the movie when they showed us that they were in Oakland, I feel like I'm invisible. Yeah, I found that on Spotify a couple of days ago, and they showed all the remakes, and every one of them is fire. So definitely check that. I ain't saying this is up there with above the rim and all that, but it's definitely a sleeper. Now, this is something I ain't like, but this is me. I'm one of them people, I'm just a stickler for details. I've always been like this. So the movie opens up in 1986 with Kenny and Anton playing in a Pee Wee basketball game. Now, they got the shorts right, because, you know, them shorts were damn near panties back then. But them shoes they had on were clearly shoes from the 90s. You know what I'm saying? I peeped that even as a little boy, like, them shoes weren't even invented in 1986. Unless they had old boy that David Allen Greer played on Jumanji. I forgot what his character name was on Jumanji. Somewhere making shoes for the future. Them shoes weren't invented. They was not invented. Also, this is something I didn't understand. When Antoine reveals himself to the Huskies, when they're in the Oakland Coliseum, and he makes a whirlwind and all he goes throughout the whole arena, and paper comes up out the stands. How is all that paper there and the building ain't even open? The tournament ain't even begin. Who the hell is the groundskeeper or the janitor? They ass need to be fired. Because if all that paper is in there and we ain't even started events, y'all bullshitting on your job. You know what I'm saying? Y'all making Oakland look bad. We know Oakland's a black city, but don't make it look like they niggerish all the time, even though Oakland, they are niggers. But then, hey, I still love Oakland. Y'all ain't have to do Oakland like that. And, you know, certain things in there, like, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I want to know how RC was not creeped out when Kenny tried to kiss her, and she can blatantly see that he looked like he's pressing his face up against a force field, and she ain't even thinking, how is your face look smushed, and there's nothing, like, you know what I'm saying? She didn't say anything about that at all. Now, this is something that got me, and this kind of got me for years. The starting five for the Huskies was kind of weird to me, because the original starting five, when Antoine was alive, it was Kenny, Antoine, Danny O'Grady, Ziggy Herbacek, and Malik Major. Now, Antoine, played by Kadeem Hardison. Kadeem Hardison 5'11". Kenny, who's played by Marlan Wayans. Marlan Wayans is 6 foot even. I swear I think he's taller. And I met that man in real life. That man was, I know I'm short, but that man was taller than 6 feet even. He seemed like he was towering over me. So the jury's out there. And Danny O'Grady, who's 5'9". You know, of course, Malik, he probably like 6 something. Like 6'5", 6'6". And Ziggy, he mentioned all throughout the movie, he's 7 feet tall. So they run a 3-guard set. Because, I mean, that's some small. I mean, they do it in college, but it's rare you have 3-guard sets like that. And the way they was running in the movie, usually if you run a 3-guard set, that means you playing up-tempo ball. Y'all running and gunning, which they wasn't doing. So I thought it was real weird that they would run those three on the floor at the same time. That's just me. Now, on to trivia for this movie. So here's the top thing. Like I've said before, these people who made this movie, they know ball. And that showed because the man that played Kenny and Antoine's dad, Harold Sylvester, y'all know him as Griff on Married with Children, Al's co-worker and friend, and also member No Ma'am. He is actually a skilled basketball player, what was in his younger days. He actually played college basketball on scholarship at Tulane University in New Orleans. He's the first African-American to get an athletic scholarship to Tulane. Even before that, he played prep ball at St. Augustine or St. Augustine. They call it St. Aug in New Orleans. At St. Aug High School in New Orleans, an all-black Catholic high school with a strong athletic tradition. Matter of fact, I think they stay going to the state tournament in Louisiana for basketball. He actually played in a game in 1965 with a local segregated white Catholic high school, Jesuit High, in which they won, which helped desegregate the Louisiana High School Athletic Association, in which they became one of the first black members of it before it completely disintegrated. Now, if you listen to this and sound familiar, if you've seen the the 1999 TNT movie, Passing Glory, starring Andre Bauer, that's based on his story. He's like the star player in that movie. That's supposed to be Harold Sylvester. And if you watch this movie, you can like look at some of the players for the Huskies, like, man, these people can't act for shit. They could not act because they weren't actors. They were legit basketball players. Like I said, the filmmakers were more interested in the basketball looking real than is this person classically trained, is they're going to put on a acting tour de force. You know, they wanted to say, hey, can y'all really look like y'all playing ball? Cause like Wood Harris said on Carmelo Anthony's After 7 Brooklyn podcast, he's like, a lot of actors don't look like they know how to play ball. So they want people to look like they know how to play ball. So here's the pedigree of the Huskies. The guy who played Danny O'Grady, Travis Ford, he actually played at Kentucky. He actually was on Kentucky when they played against Christian Laettner and the Duke Blue Devils, in which Christian Laettner went 11 from the field and hit that buzzer beater to help them get their second back-to-back national championship. Malik Major, who's played by Lorenzo Orr, who actually played ball at UNC. Matter of fact, he made Pac-10, all Pac-10. That's back when USC was in the Pac-10, before it was the Pac-12, in 1994. I hope I don't butcher his man's name. Vladimir Cook, who played Ziggy Herbacek, the 7-foot center who had hair like Rodman, who could not dunk. He played ball at James Madison. And I hope I don't butcher this last person's name either. Jack Kuruletwa, who played Luther LaSalle. He played ball at Grand Canyon in Arizona. And he's actually of Rwandan descent. I used to always look at that like he sound like he African something, because now it makes sense when he was talking to the girl and the boy. He said, you know, I see myself as the African ambassador of basketball. So he actually is of African descent. Well, literally not like saying African American. Y'all know what the hell I'm talking about. But yeah, those were all legit college basketball players that they got to play the Huskies. Now, the players in the tournament, this is something I peep. I don't know if they were doing this on purpose, but I look at it and I think this is what they were doing. So the teams that they kind of highlighted more so in the tournament than others, there's 3 teams. That was Fresno State, Georgetown, and in the final game for the championship, UMass. Now, O'Neal on Fresno State. That clearly, to me, was Chris Herring. Y'all know Chris Herring. If you got ESPN Plus, you done seen every week it jumps. Some week it's a 30 for 30. Some week it's an ESPN film. But it's called Unguarded. It's about star athlete for Durfee High in Fall Rivers, Massachusetts. A white guy by the name of Chris Herring who could ball his ass off. He got in trouble at Boston College. Jared Tarkanian took him out to Fresno State. He finished up, played in the NBA a little bit, but he had a substance abuse problem and kind of screwed him up. But he now goes around and he's a motivational speaker trying to keep kids off of drugs. Gerard Smith from Georgetown. Now, it's Georgetown. I'm pretty sure this movie was written in 95, 96. I don't think I got to tell y'all who that person was. Gerard Smith was played by Flex, you know, who gave us that god-awful Michael Jackson movie. But, you know, we'll forgive Flex for that. I'll never forgive him for that. But, you know, we love him still. That was Allen Iverson. They just made him taller. But that was definitely Allen Iverson. Now, one could argue that possibly it could also have been Victor Page. Y'all need to look Victor Page up. I ain't going to go into detail because he, like, that 95, 96 season, he actually was on Georgetown. He was dogging better than Iverson. But I'm convinced that Gerard Smith, played by Flick, that was Allen Iverson. That was 100% Allen Iverson. Now, UMass is this. They named 3 players, but one player didn't even really do nothing. I'll go back and watch the movie, so I'm not going to even mention them. But they had one player named Rudy Oliveira, who's a point guard, and then they had a forward named Mark Sampson. I'm going to say Rudy Oliveira was a composite of that backcourt for UMass the year before, in the 96 Final Four. Carmelo Travieso and Edgar Padilla, because Oliveira is a Spanish last name. Those are Spanish last names, so I think that was them throwing a nod to that. And Mark Sampson, that's Marcus Camby, without a shadow of a doubt. That is Marcus Camby. Now, the connection in this movie, they got a couple. I'm going to name this one first. So they had George Raveling as the commentator in the Final Four. Marlon Wayans played Kenny Tyler in this movie. Marlon Wayans ends up playing George Raveling in the 2023 movie Air. Ain't that wild? It also featured 3 actors who I think shaped the 90s, me personally. They had Chris Spencer in there playing Jimmy Stubbs. You know, he the bench warmer, always begging to go in, can't never go in. Matter of fact, when he did go in, Dick Vitale was looking around like, Jimmy, who? Like, you know, y'all know him as before this year, before he played Preach and Don't Be a Menace, been all kind of black sitcoms throughout the 90s. Most famously, he played Curtis in the Jamie Foxx show. Will Sasso was in that. You know him from Mad TV. He was a drunk guy at the bar. Matter of fact, he bust Jimmy Stubbs' bubble when he trying to lie about how many points he got. He was like, you don't ever play. And then he's like, no, you had best. He said, no, I go to every game. He said, this guy never plays. And last but not least, the late, great Kurt Bailey. He played assistant coach Nichols, kind of a nervous, energy, bumbling guy. Now, we know this guy because this is Ugly, the counselor at Camp Anawana on the 90s Nickelodeon show, Salute Your Shorts. I remember first time seeing it. When I saw him, I was like, is that Ugg? I said, boy, Ugg done left Camp Anawana and became a basketball coach. So, yeah. I found this out recently going through trying to find who all was in the movie that might have ended up doing something. So apparently Octavia Spencer had a role in this movie, and it was cut. Yeah, her character's name was Nativity Watson. So I don't even know where, but it was revealed Tate Taylor, who was a friend of hers and a future director of the movie The Help, which she won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for, said that she had got an advance copy of the movie. She had threw a dinner party and everything, and when she got to where her scenes were, she saw that they had been cut. That is wild. Now I'm trying to figure out what they left on the cutting room floor. Also, this is something that's factual too. This trivia too. So, because I like Georgetown as well as Duke. There was some discrepancies with that. Gerard Smith wore number 19 in there. During that time when the movie came out, 1997, you couldn't wear 19 in prep basketball, in amateur basketball. You could only wear anything between 0 and 5, and the highest number you get is 55. So if you wearing numbers in the teens, it's got to be 1 through 15. So he would have not been able to wear number 19, and one of his teammates had on number 8. That would have never happened. Also, them weren't the genuine, real deal Hoyas jerseys, because when you look closely on it, they got like black stripe on there. That's not. That was a solid blue stripe. Trust me, I know them Kente cloth Georgetown Hoyas jerseys. I wanted one of them so bad back in the day. You know, and even the numbering they had, it was a traditional, like, varsity number. That's not the way that number was. I know it ain't really that big of a deal, but, hey, that's something that's trivia that I don't like. I just had to put that in there. Now, one thing I will say is that there was a big connection with UMass in this movie. I don't know if the writer went to UMass, the producer went to UMass, the director, but somebody in here went to UMass or something, because there was a big connection. I'm explaining the connection. So UMass is the team that, as we know, the Huskies played for to win the national championship. Kentucky is featured in this movie, which at the time was coached by Rick Pitino. He was only mentioned, he wasn't seen. Rick Pitino played college ball at UMass. Remember I mentioned Travis Ford, who played at Kentucky? You know, the one who played Danny O'Grady, who stood at like 5'9"? He was once a coach at UMass. Once was a head basketball coach at UMass. So like I said, it was a UMass connection all throughout this movie. I don't understand. Hey, man. And now, before I get out of it, I got to say my favorite, like, quotes or scenes on his. It's two of them I like. Now, one of them, I liked it when I was little because I could get it. So, Antoine and Kenny is after Antoine had ruined Kenny's date with RC. And he told him to go away. And Antoine said, I'm out of here. He goes into a painting on the wall. And it's like a painting where a man sitting in front of a bridge just fishing. So as Antoine walked by, he said, what the hell you doing? And you ain't going to catch shit and push the poor man into the damn lake. I always thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And another scene I like is right before Antoine reveals himself to the team, is when the team thought that Kenny was crazy. And Kenny told Antoine, reveal yourself, and Antoine said, man, this only works if I keep a low profile. Kenny said, a low profile? Negro, you invisible. So how much low of a profile do you need? I thought that was so hilarious. I remember, I didn't understand what a low profile was at the time, but now that I'm an adult and I know what low profile is, that shit is hilarious. I remember my dad laughing at that when we watched it on pay-per-view. You know, on the black box, y'all had the black box. You get the movies about every hour on the hour. You ain't have to pay for them. Don't act like I'm the only one that had the black box. I'll never forget that. My dad don't laugh at nothing. So when he said that, my dad was in tears. And now that I'm older, I get that. Anyway, that's been my review of The Sixth Man. You know, next time I report back from y'all, it will be the end of March Madness, and we'll see who's going to be the winner of the national title. And like I told y'all, I'm going to do blue chips. You know, if there's a movie you want me to review, y'all can DM me on Facebook. Y'all can follow me on Instagram. That's PeteMac10, PetyMac10. Y'all can follow me on TikTok, PetyMac89, same as Instagram, except drop the 1 and 0 and put an 8 and 9 in its place. Until the next time we talk, when we will be dissecting blue chips, be cool, stay calm, and get paid. Peace.